On today's special crossover edition of Locked On Wild and Locked On Blues, the Jets, the Avs, the Stars, the top three in the Central Division last year. So who's falling out for one of these two?
Hey, this is Matt Boldy, and you're listening to Locked On Wild.
You're Locked On Wild, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Wild. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome to a special crossover edition of Locked On Wild and Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Wild and the St. Louis Blues, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team each and every day, and we thank you for making both Locked On Wild and Locked On Blues your first listen each and every day as well. Make sure to subscribe to both shows so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is right around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets right now. On today's episode, Haley Taylor-Simon of Locked On Blues joins us as we take a look at both teams that are going to be eager to jump into the top three of the Central Division. We'll take a look at a full season of Jim Montgomery coming up, as well as, I'm sure, a look at the Kirill Kaprizov contract situation. My name is Seth Topal, host of Locked On Wild, joined, as mentioned, by Haley Taylor-Simon of Locked On Blues. Haley, it's been a little bit of a quiet last month or so of the offseason, but that's okay. We're getting ready for the start of the NHL season, and really excited to dig into what I expect are two teams that are going to give the Jets, the Avs, and the Stars a little bit of a fight this year.
Absolutely. Hi, Seth. Glad to be here with you talking again. I think last year you and I did predict that both of our teams would make the playoffs. So this is the first time we've done a collab since then. So always good talking to you because good things happen. But yes, this is going to be a great season for both the Wild and the Blues. And I think that's the one time I'm going to say that about the Wild, in all fairness. But these are two teams that did surpass expectations last season with our other friends from the Central Division. So a lot of improvement, I believe, on both teams that kind of makes you and I in a position where maybe we look beyond the wild card.
Oh, yeah, we're definitely going to have to talk about that here, too, in today's episode, because it's no secret the Minnesota Wild have not had fun times in the first round of the playoffs for the last decade. So we'll look at that because that curse has to break at some point. It has to. But I did want to start, Haley, by talking about Jim Montgomery. I did an episode with my Monday guest, Alex, and we ranked the Central Division coaches 1 through 8. And Jim Montgomery took the first spot on our rankings list because you look at what he did with the Blues when he took over. It was a Blues team that was, right at or under 500, kind of didn't have a direction forward. They were floundering. Defense wasn't great. Enter Jim Montgomery. He got him playing better. He got him to the playoffs. He got them to Game 7 of Round 1. And now you get the full offseason to put together the Monty plan, as I'm going to call it. So how excited are you, and how excited should Blues fans be to get a full season of Jim Montgomery after the taste we got last year?
That's a great question. And as a fan myself of this team, I am so excited that he is back. Obviously, it hurt when he went to Boston, but he was able to do really great things for the Bruins, which gave me even more confidence for his return to St. Louis. And again, he's worked with a lot of the players on the Blues already, a lot of the veteran players he has worked with. So it's the younger guys that are just kind of getting used to him. But this is a really good opportunity for the older players to step up and to teach the younger guys, as you mentioned, the Mounty way. I call it the Monty way. But that's another thing that's a huge advantage to that. So yes, obviously him having a whole entire training camp and a whole entire season is going to set this team on the right note. And the one thing that he's able to do is he's able to bring that familiarity in. And I know when Berube left, it was difficult for the team, and I can't speak for all of the players, but I did talk to a couple players, like Braden Shen, and it's difficult when you have a coach that had a really good system and you lose them. And it's no disrespect to Drew Bannister, but he just wasn't connecting with the team. And even when I talked to Bannister, he didn't directly say that, but he was saying that the team was having a really difficult time picking up basic things. And then all of a sudden, Jim Montgomery comes in and the team kind of flipped a switch. So I think having Coach Montgomery's system, his presence in the locker room, but his presence also outside of the locker room is going to draw this team to do really great things. And it was kind of like, it's ironic that you say that actually, Seth, about you ranked him number one because of the turnaround the Blues had. And it just brings me back to the year that the Blues won the Cup when the Blues had a turnaround when Craig Berube was brought in. So there's something said about having a coach that comes in a little bit halfway through the season or before halfway through the season, coach, Berube's case, and you're able to do some really great things.
Haley, let's talk about the Blues defense a little bit. I know Torrey Krug is on IR, and so that leaves the Blues in a little bit of a hole before the season even starts. How much of a concern should that be for this season, or is that something that you feel like there are players on the roster, maybe such as a Logan Mailloux that was brought in via trade? Do you feel like there's opportunity for this defense to overcome that loss, or is that something that's going to be felt, especially early on in the season?
Yeah, so with Torrey Krug, it is so unfortunate what happened with his ankle, and I suspect that he's actually not going to play an NHL game again. It's unfortunate, but he's just at that age. So I feel like that's something that I've accepted for about a year now. So anyways, to answer your question, there is always the possibility of Logan Mailloux, who came in through the trade with Zach Bolduc. But I think that you need to evaluate how he plays at training camp before you go ahead with that decision. He did play 7 games with Montreal. Wasn't the best, honestly. Yeah, it could have been worse, but it wasn't the best. But he does have a lot of potential. I mean, he was an all-star in the AHL a couple seasons ago and showed a lot of potential. But players such as Tyler Tucker, like, he has an opportunity to shine and to do some really good things. I suspect, though, and again, it's so infuriating when you know what's about to come. They're going to have Matthew Kessel on the opening day line, like something like stupid like that, in my opinion. Now, what I will say is that Cam Fowler stepped up big time last season, and he played some really great hockey. And again, you have a talent like a Colton Parayko who is going to probably go to the Olympics. You have Philip Broberg. So you do have some really great talent defensively. Unfortunately, they still have Justin Folk, but they did get rid of Nick Leddy. So that was a positive off to San Jose. But I also can't say that there's some of the younger guys too that might come out of training camp. But again, it just depends on camp. But yes, to answer your question, kind of throw it all back, Logan definitely has an opportunity. I just wouldn't. I'm 50-50 on it. I want to see how he does.
Okay. One final one, then we'll swing it to break. And after the break, I'll give you the chance to pick my
Yes.
brain regarding the Minnesota Wild. We got to talk about Jake Neighbors, who just, you look at what he did this past season. He had 22 goals, 46 total points, and looks to be a player on the verge of a massive breakout. And you couple that with what the Blues already have in Jordan Kyrou, in Robert Thomas, in some of these other names that have become pretty good offensive weapons. I think it just has a chance to be a Blues offense that scores a ton of goals this year.
Yeah, I actually like that you mentioned Jake Neighbors. I was actually talking to my show about this, and I told them all, we haven't really talked much about Jake. He had a good season, but it wasn't anything spectacular. So thank you for actually bringing up Jake Neighbors. But Jordan Kyrou, the season that he had, another 70-point season, ranked 16th overall in goals scored in the NHL. Huge season for Ruzi. Also, of course, Robert Thomas. He did have bit of an injury in the beginning of the season, was able to overcome that, and he still performed well. Now, what I will say about the Blues' offense, though, it's Dylan Holloway. And it's ironic, actually, today, Seth, that this episode has gone out, because this is the day that the offer sheets were made to Edmonton. So, yes, this is anniversary day. So, um, with the chemistry that Jordan Kyrou and Dylan Holloway have, especially with Dylan Holloway being healthy for next season, the Blues are going to be an offensively strong team. They're going to be offensively dominant. They're going to score probably more than you've seen them in the past score. And I feel like a lot of teams that have doubted the Blues, and I get it. When you look at the Blues as maybe third and fourth line from this past season, the fourth line actually played quite well, in my opinion. You might say, I don't recognize those names. They're not that talented. They don't put up enough points. But this is a speedy offensive team, a deep offensive team, and a scary offensive team.
And you've got the opportunity to get Jimmy Snuggerud regular playing time. Had to throw the Minnesota plug in there, of course.
Oh, Snuggie is great. Thank you, Minnesota.
Yeah, trust me, if the Minnesota Wild had all of the Minnesota either born or the players that went to the U on their roster, they would run out of room for banners, for cups, for all those things. Because despite what many may say, it is, of course, the state of hockey, because we are the pipeline to the NHL. For all those people that say you can't call yourself the state of hockey because you don't have a Stanley Cup, that's not why we do it. We do it because we're the pipeline. So
hey, I agree with that one, actually. Shout out Minnesota. There's a lot of great Minnesotians out here in the NHL.
There is a elite level of Minnesotans that make the NHL home. Let's get a break in, and then I will flip and give Haley the chance to ask some Minnesota Wild related questions. So we will talk Minnesota Wild as we continue today's episode of Locked On Wild and Locked On Blues right after this. Today's episode of Locked On Wild and Locked On Blues is brought to you by FanDuel. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or are ready to crown your Super Bowl champion before week one even kicks off, this is your moment. So take a flyer on Justin Jefferson to win the MVP. Go crazy. Take a flyer on J.J. McCarthy to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. Go nuts. Take a flyer on the Minnesota Vikings to win the Super Bowl. Hey, let's not get crazy here. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now, because FanDuel Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. Welcome back to today's special crossover edition of Locked On Wilds and Locked On Blues. Again, we thank you for making both shows your first listen each and every day. Make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. Haley, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. So, of course, I need to ask, it's the guy that does the intro to your show, Matt Boldy. Will he be a point per game player this season?
Ooh, I like this. And I think he will, because I think we saw a little bit of the unlocking of the Matt Boldy experience in the postseason against the Vegas Golden Knights. He had 5 goals in the 6 games. He really just looked like a guy on a mission to make a big impact in that series. He did. Vegas threw more and more at him and Kirill Kaprizov as the series unfolded, which is why the Golden Knights got the upper hand in that series. But I think after a season in which Boldy, had a career high in points again, his goals have dipped the last couple of seasons because he's played more of a top-line role with Kirill Kaprizov, with Joel Eriksson Ek. So he's become a little bit more of a facilitator. And I think if the Wild do move Matt Zuccarello back up to the top line with Marco Rossi, who I'm just going to assume is going to be on the roster day one, That'll put Matt Boldy in more of a scoring role on the second line. And I think Vladimir Tarasenko, former Blue,
Oh, we
is
love Vladdy.
a little bit more of a playmaker than they've had there in previous years. He's a guy that can shoot the puck. He can let it rip. So I do think we're going to see Matt Boldy become a point per game player. I don't think we're going to maybe see a 40-40 season yet, but he definitely has it in him. He was on pace early on in the season for a 50-50, which would have been amazing. But I do think we see him amp it up because that's about the next step for him. He was over 0.75 points per game this past season. If he gets it up to a point per game, he's really going to take that next step. And $7 million for a guy like that, what a bargain.
So it's no secret. We have to talk about the potential contract, potential extension for the one and only Kirill Kaprizov. I don't see why the Wild wouldn't, but I need to hear your thoughts on this because I'm really surprised that we're hitting almost mid-August and we haven't heard anything yet of an extension.
Yeah, it is one of those things that just is interesting as time passes. You're like, how come this hasn't gotten done yet? And what Bill Guerin has been very adamant that, he's not worried. These sorts of deals take time. And from what we have heard so far this offseason, there hasn't been a ton. There have been some exchanges, the initial exchanges of like, here's what we want. Here's what the Wild want to go with. And so there's definitely some ground to be made up, some room to be gained by both sides in this deal. However, I will say the sides have not met in person yet. And that's when this is going to get done. And I have seen mentioned on social media too that, for as important to this franchise as Kirill Kaprizov is, you want to turn it into a big deal. So they're going to want to have, a big press conference. They're going to want to have social media, everything's. They're going to want to turn this into a big spectacle once he does sign. I don't get the sense that this is something that won't happen. It could be for less than 8 years, maybe 7, maybe 6. But I think it's going to get done. He likes it here. The Wild understand that if they don't re-sign him, that's going to set them back considerably. It's just a matter of dotting the I's and crossing the T's.
That's fair. So another player, we're going to switch to between the pipes. It's Philip Gustafsson. So obviously Swedish player, 27 years old. And of course I know about him because with the Swedes, I've been actually keeping my eyes out with the Olympic stuff. Anyways, how do you think he's going to do this season? I know Marc-Andre Fleury is not playing any more hockey, former Minnesota Wild. I wanted to throw that out there as well. But just going back to Philip, how do you think he's going to do this season?
I'm huge on Philip Gustafsson and have been since he was acquired from the Ottawa Senators for Cam Talbot. Who do you think won that trade? Cha-ching!
Mm-hmm.
I've been a huge fan of Philip Gustafsson because I think you see the flashes of what a number one goalie can do. And obviously you, Haley, have had a chance to watch Jordan Binnington for the last several seasons. You can just kind of tell when you see those moments. Like I go back to the opening game against the Dallas Stars in the playoffs a couple of seasons ago, where he had, I think it was 51 out of 53 saves, and it was a double overtime win for the Minnesota Wild. And it's like many other things where you may not know how to define like what is a number one goalie, but then when you see it, you point to it and you say, that's it. And what Philip Gustafsson did in that game, that's a number one goalie. And his numbers, since he became a full-time starter, he's top 10 in goals against average and save percentage. And he routinely is like a half a goal to a full goal saved above expected. So these are all the marks of a goalie that deserves to be rewarded as a franchise guy. And I know Jesper Wallsted's still in the pipeline, but what's wrong with having two goalies? What's wrong with having two guys that can potentially be franchise type goalies and just having a little overlap? I hope they keep him because I think he has won them many games over the course of his tenure. And I think with now it being clearly his net, I think you could see Philip Gustafson in 50, 55 starts if he can stay healthy. I think you could see him have, 35, 40 wins, something along those lines, and those good peripheral numbers. I think he could get some Vezina votes this year.
Yeah, wow. Okay. I didn't expect Vezina at the end. Wow. So you think he's going to play the way that he did a couple seasons ago then?
I do.
Wow. Seth, that actually had me speechless. I was going to ask you my next question. I'm like, wait, Vezina. Okay. If that happens, I'll give you the credit. That took me by surprise.
He may not be a finalist, but I think he will definitely garner some votes.
Okay. Well, that seems like it could happen 100%. And then my final question for you is about prospects. Talk to me, any prospects that you expect to make the team this upcoming season.
Yeah, there are going to be a few that I think will play key roles on this team, whether it be Danila Yurov, who is coming to North America for the first time after being in the KHL for the last few seasons. He expects to be somebody that makes the lineup and can make an impact in the top six. You've also got Zeev Boyum, who got his cup of tea with the Wild last year and played some in the playoffs. He'll be a big impact player for the Minnesota Wild this year. And then another couple of guys that could potentially grab some spots. Liam Ogren, who's been up and down with the Wild the last couple of years. He went crazy in the gym this offseason, so he looks like he's in position to take a roster spot. And David Jiricek, who the Wild traded 2 arms, 2 legs, a third arm, and half of a third leg to get. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how he's utilized. He's got a big body. I think he could be another defenseman that helps out, but he may be a little further behind than Zeev is right now.
It's funny you say that, and I'm like, there's another Jiricek that I like a lot. I'm telling
Yeah.
you, it's you know what? I wish that Luke Shen actually stayed ironically with Nashville. Here's the thing. I love the whole siblings being in the NHL, but again, I'm an Adam, you're a Czech, obviously you're David. But it's cool that, they're both, here in the Central.
Yeah, hopefully there's not too much of a
Oh,
rivalry
wait.
between the two, but
Luke went to Winnipeg, yeah.
oh.
I don't know why he went to Pittsburgh for a hot minute. Yeah. Okay, I wasn't crazy. He just
I feel
didn't do
like
anything in the playoffs
I feel like everybody goes to Pittsburgh for a hot minute.
for a hot minute, yeah. And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, he definitely did not do anything in the playoffs for me to remember." And then I was like, "Oh, wait, yep, both the parents were there, so." Hockey.
Well, let's dive into our big debate for segment 3, because these two teams, I think, like last year, are going to be right in the thick of the playoff push. So when we come back from the break, we'll talk about which of the top 3 teams is in danger of walking the plank. That is as we finish today's crossover edition of Locked On Wild and Locked On Blues after this. Today's edition of Locked On Wild and Locked On Blues is brought to you by Indeed. You just realized your business needed to hire somebody yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Well, that's the easy part. You just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed's sponsored jobs put your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. And as somebody who's on the job hunt this past summer, I can attest those sponsored job posts are the first things that I saw when I was looking in particular categories. So they do get to you. And then from there, Indeed will plug your skills in to the qualifications that the job is looking for, almost like they're trying to tie 2 pieces of string together to pull you in closer. Now you can speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need. Final segment of today's special crossover edition of Locked On Wild and Locked On Blues. Again, we thank all of you wonderful listeners for making both shows your first listen each and every day. We are, of course, your team each and every day as well. And we thank you for subscribing on whatever platform you listen, whether it be in the car, on your phone, at work. You know, if you're one of those that listens at work while you're trying to be productive, hey, I salute you because I do it too. Haley, let's talk about the Central Division to finish things up today. Last year, it's been not even just last year, it's been the last couple of seasons. Pretty familiar names at the top of the list, whether it be the Dallas Stars, the Colorado Avalanche, the Winnipeg Jets. Those were the three last year. And then you had the two wildcard teams from the Central in the Minnesota Wild and the St. Louis Blues. So which of the top three do you think has the most likely chance of falling out of the top three and either being a wild card or missing the playoffs entirely?
Well, they're going to hate me for this because they don't like me as it is, but the Winnipeg Jets, they're actually going to miss out on the playoffs. And the reason why I say this is, and I always say this, is goalies are your most important players when you need it. And I watched Connor Hellebuck get pulled out of every single away game for the Jets in the first round last season in the playoffs, this past playoffs. And the thing about the Jets is I know that they sustained some injury and that's the excuse that these Winnipeg fans want to make, but it doesn't matter. You still need your third and fourth line guys to play well, and they don't. They played slow and lackadaisical. And I'm not trying to be a hater, but they didn't do enough this offseason for them to improve significantly. And when I look at teams such as the Avalanche and I look at teams such as the Dallas Stars, I see two really strong competitive teams. I personally think the St. Louis Blues will have the third seed. However, I know what you're going to say. Oh, it's going to be the Wild. Hey, it might be. But either way, it's not going to be the Jets.
Yeah, I'm a little, I don't want to say puzzled, but I think we are seeing the effects of having a bunch of contracts right at the same time, kind of strapping your funds. And as somebody who saw the second half of the season with Gustav Nyquist and how that worked out with arguably the most important goal in that series being called back due to being offsides by simply not sticking your leg out. Don't get me started on that or I'm going to go off in a huge tangent.
Hey, listen, if I hear 1.6 seconds, I'm the same way.
Hockey and even just little phrases that can set people completely off the deep end. I just don't really feel like Gustav Nyquist has much left in the tank based on what I saw this past season from him, and signing him to a deal that makes it seem like he's going to play at minimum like middle 6 minutes, and also banking on Jonathan Taves to be able to come back after 2 years away, and also banking on him being able to make an impact in the middle six. That's a gamble, in my opinion, and it does not replicate what Nikolai Ehlers brought. So I think the offense will regress for sure. As far as the goaltending goes, Connor Hellebuck had maybe one of the greatest goaltending seasons you will ever see in the regular season. But it's pretty clear that the amount of games that he starts on a year-by-year basis is starting to catch up with him and is leading to him just kind of running out of gas in the postseason. Now, he did rebounds for the most part in the second round, but in that first round, he got cooked. Like, he just got cooked by the Blues. And I just wonder if he even is like 90% of that this year, how many games that's going to cost the Jets. Like, that's the difference between winning like 52, 53 games and winning 44, 45 games. That's like a 10-point swing. And then in that case, you are third and or a wild card team. So I think it's consensus. I think it's the Jets that stand the biggest chance to drop.
Isn't it crazy, though, like winning the President's Trophy and being the best team in the regular season, of course, to now being a team that potentially won't make the playoffs. I mean, this is why I love hockey because it can change in a second.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, I want to say this too. I wish nothing but the best for Jonathan Taves and everything that he's gone through. And I'm super happy to see him back in the NHL. Okay. I know people are going to hate me for that one. Oh my God, he was on Chicago. I know. But the point is that you just didn't do enough, even having him join Winnipeg to improve that team. And again, I might have a little bit more of my anger towards the Jets right now just because of how everything went down in the playoffs. But again, looking at this from a non-biased standpoint, I can't say that the Avalanche and the Dallas Stars are going to do worse.
Yeah. Well,
That wouldn't be fair to say that.
and the other thing too that I'm just looking at now is the Jets have been almost to a shocking level very, very healthy the last few seasons. Like I was just counting on their roster, and they had 12 players that started 70 or more games on the roster, and that included several that started 82. And those are your key pieces like Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele, Cole Perfetti, Nino Niederreiter, Alex Iafallo, Dylan DeMello. They all started 82 games. So you're talking about a top six, a middle six that is mostly intact the whole season. And I just take it from somebody who has seen some of the most injuries you'll ever see over the last 2 years.
Yep.
Health does not last, no matter how much you want it to. So I think it's the Jets, and
Yeah.
I'm not sorry about it.
Now, I actually have a question for you because we were right last season, and I love that we were right. You said that the Wild would get the wild card one, and I said the Blues would be wild card two. Tell me your thoughts now. We need to have this on record, Seth, of your predictions for this upcoming season.
See, I'm going to bump both up one spot. I think the Wild will get the 3. I think the Blues will get wild card 1. And I think Utah will get wild card 2.
Ooh. So I want to say on record, I know I was kind of joking about the Blues getting the 3rd seed. In my actual prediction episode, which is on my channel that you can look at Locked On Blues, I did say that the Blues would get wild card 1 and that the Wild would get the 3 seed. But for the wild card 2, I had a team that almost got it last year, and that is the Calgary Flames. I do have them in that position.
I like that. I think Calgary will definitely be in the mix. I don't know about you, but I just at this point, I don't know if Nashville can. I don't know if they can make the comeback. Like I think
so.
that grouping is just kind of fractured.
It was bad.
Yeah, it's going to take them moving some pieces, getting new talent in for them to get back to the playoffs. So I don't think Nashville does it. Chicago's not going to do it. At that point, Utah's young and fun. Why not?
And it's funny too. You and I were the only 2 people that also said that Nashville was not going to have a good season. Like we were on it last year for the predictions. The only thing about Utah, I mean, they could. I watched a lot of Calgary hockey. So for me, I'm just a little bit biased. I didn't watch as much Utah. I was like locked in. Well, when you think a team might surpass you and it's the playoffs at stake, you're going to watch a lot of hockey of that said team. But yeah, I could see Utah too.
I will say too that I think Calgary has the most, like percentage wise, I think they probably have the better likelihood to do it. It feels like Utah kind of has to have a few things go their way in order to get that wild card spot, and they have to have a few things from the other teams not go their way. So I think the odds of it being one of those teams are very, very good, and we'll just have to see who's right.
Clayton Keller stays healthy, hometown guy, by the way. Shout out, Mr. Keller and Clayton. I know that he one time watched my episode, so that was cool. Well, again, it's like, when you have like the titles and it's like, what's going on with my son? And it's like, oh no, she was just talking about the game. But no, again, like as long as he stays healthy, because he is the best player on the team, And I think that's the difference between maybe a team like the Flames versus Utah. I'm still going to want to say Utah Hockey Club. It's going to take me a minute to say Mammoth. But when you have a player that stands out, but yet you have a team that has players maybe that all don't stand out as much, but kind of just are consistent, it's a very interesting perspective. You need to stay healthy, 100%.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how this division plays out. There could be a big fight for the top three. There could be a big fight for the wild card, but we know for sure hockey's getting close. So, Haley, thanks for joining here today. Listeners, thanks for tuning in as you do each and every day of the week. Make sure to subscribe to both Locked On Wild and Locked On Blues so you don't miss out on any new episodes as we get closer and closer to the start of the regular season. You can find both shows all week long as part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are, of course, your team every day.